Erica Grant, welcome to the show. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
Very good. So, Erica, we're going to talk about quantum computing, the real life applications of quantum computing, what's next, and a lot of interesting facts. But I would like to start with your story. How did
Okay.
you get into quantum computing?
Okay. So it's kind of a long, rambling path, quite honestly. So I'll try to give you the short version. Um, when I was in high school, I was actually going to go into music. That's what I applied to all my colleges for. And then I had an AP physics teacher that was like, you should major in physics. It's like, okay, I've never really had a teacher tell me that I should major in the class that I was in. At first I was like, no. And then I realized I was doing physics problems for fun. It's like, okay, maybe I should just try this out. I never saw myself as an academic. I kind of thought to be a physicist, you had to be like Einstein or somebody like that at the
Right.
time. Um, turns out, no, you don't have to be like crazy smart. You can be sort of smart and still do really well. So I went into college at Virginia Tech for physics, did research in nanoscience and in quantum computing, decided I wanted to go into quantum computing after doing some internships, and got into a really amazing grad school program that's at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in the University of Tennessee. And I got to work with some amazing top scientists in quantum computing and really get integrated with the field. And I fell in love with it, really. So that's how I got into it. And it was an interesting path, but I'm really glad I ended up there.
Nice. So we could say it was all in part thanks to that professor that saw something in you and said, "Hey, you really should, get into physics."
Yeah, I know. And it's crazy because I don't think I realized that I could do it until someone was like, "Hey, you could do this." Okay. Yeah, let's try it. Um, and I still don't really see myself as an academic, but I see myself now as somebody who's capable of doing research, which is
Right.
empowering, definitely.
Very good. Do you still play music?
Great question. No, I definitely fell out of it. So I did a lot of competitive vocal stuff whenever I was in high school. And then when I went to college, I kind of just like went into my studies and did some other fun things. But I have a daughter now and I sing to her, and I feel like I'm getting better at singing again because I sing to my daughter at night, and it's kind of a funny thing. But yeah, I wish I had kept up with it. That's for sure.
You can always pick it up as a hobby. Uh,
Yeah.
but but going back to quantum,
Yeah.
so how would you describe for the audience what is quantum computing?
Yeah. It's a hard question to answer, and this is definitely an oversimplification, but here's my best shot. In a typical computer, you have electronics, and at the fundamental level, you have these devices called transistors, and they process information as a zero or a one. So basically, everything you see that's produced by your computer is a product of zeros and ones, which in itself is kind of mind-blowing. Now, to take it a whole nother step further, in quantum computing, it utilizes two really amazing principles of quantum mechanics. The first is that we have, instead of transistors, something called a qubit. And a qubit is able to be simultaneously a zero and a one, or some combination of zero and one. This is called superposition. And that is kind of confusing to even think about. Um, but as an example of how this becomes useful, is that in a classical computer, let's say you're searching for a specific number. Let's say using binary, it's 0101. And you would have to search for that. So you'd have to say, okay, is it 0000, 0001, all the way to zero until you get to 0101. In a quantum computer, you're actually able to utilize superposition to be in all of those states simultaneously. Um, so finding that number ends up being very fast. And it also utilizes something called entanglement, which is where you have one qubit and another qubit that their states are connected. The state of this qubit and changing the state of this qubit changes the state of the qubit over here. So it's what allows those 4 qubits in my example to be connected in the first place. And that is something that is very difficult to explain, but it becomes very powerful for a lot of applications and allows us to solve very large problems that are very difficult for a classical computer to solve faster and get sort of this like exponential speed up.
Very nice. I could ask a million questions, and I'm sure we will go down to a rabbit hole, but can you control the entanglement? Can you create the entanglement and just, because of your decision, have 2 qubits that are entangled because you made something happen?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different architectures for a quantum computer that do different types of entanglement. So there's a million rabbit holes to go down in that direction. But typically, yes, you have a controlled set of qubits that are entangled with other qubits. And when it has to remain entangled throughout the entire calculation. And so there's a host of quantum algorithms that utilize specific mappings of entangled qubits. Yeah, that's a growing area of research.
So because of superposition and the fact that you can have all of the different types of information happen at the same time in the qubit, it's basically the amount of information that you can store, the amount of calculations that you can make basically gets multiplied like crazy, right? So if like the way I would put it with very non-technical words is you can store way more information, you have way more computational power.
Yes, exactly. The computational power increases exponentially. So with the size of the problem. So that is something that is just really powerful. And you have to design quantum algorithms that utilize the architecture and the properties of quantum computing. That is challenging. And so it's a growing area of research. There's actually something called the Quantum Algorithm Zoo, where you can go and see the whole list of problems that can be solved using a quantum computer. So yeah, there's the quantum computing field has many different areas of research. And right now, people are focused on the moonshot projects. So building a universal, scalable, large quantum computer that's able to solve these really big real world problems that classical computers can't solve right now. Right. That is what the majority of people are really focused on. And that area has so many different segments of research that are going into trying to make that vision happen.
Right.
For example, solving errors that pop up in a classical computer, because you can just use redundancy to find in like transistors for like leakage and that kind of thing, those kinds of errors that pop up. But in quantum computer, you can't use redundancy. You have to solve, if an error pops up while something is entangled, you have to solve it mid-entanglement. You're like, whoa, how does that happen? So in a lot of cases, you have to have ancillary qubits where their whole job while the system is entangled is to identify and fix errors. And turns out that with current quantum computers, especially superconducting quantum computers, that doesn't scale very well as you increase the number of qubits, because you have to have so many ancillary qubits per cluster of qubits. And so there are other types of quantum computing that people are developing that are more robust against errors. And there are ways that people are researching how to reduce noise and reduce environmental things that can tamper with entanglement, because entanglement turns out to be very delicate.
Okay.
Some quantum computing methods most quantum computing methods have to operate at very low temperatures and have to be in like controlled against like magnetism and noise and vibrations, all sorts of things to try to preserve the entanglement. So though that's a really big area of research, that's a
That's
hurdle.
superconductors, right? Superconductors solve some of that because of the material used to transmit energy, or
Sorry,
not?
did you say it solves some of that?
Yeah, no,
Um,
kind of.
solves what part of that?
The temperature and the energy required.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So for superconducting qubits, we have to have them super cooled. So they use
Okay,
like hydrogen cooling and that kind of thing. And yeah, and that's well, in order for it to be a superconductor, you have to super cool it.
okay,
But having it at low temperatures also reduces some of the noise, obviously, as well. Um, but yeah, it turns out that there's still a lot of noise and it's difficult to control. So yeah, those are some of the hurdles that the field is
exists today.
facing, and then also the growing number of quantum algorithms and trying to find problems that it can solve, and that is a really exciting area of research. Yeah.
Good. What are some of the applications today for quantum computing?
Yeah,
What is
there's
it being used for?
yeah, there are a lot of areas that it's being used for now. Um, so I guess I will kind of separate it into two camps. One, there's quantum computing, which is developing a computer to solve problems. And then there's also quantum information. So you can use entangled qubits and entangled particles and superposition and inherent randomness of particles to do some really interesting things in communication and cryptography. That is very well developed today. Still a growing area of research and things to be done, but is very, very applicable now. People are building um, uh, secure quantum networks over fiber optics using quantum entanglement to detect if someone's listening into the fiber optic cable and for securing that communication. I'm using it in my company, Quantal Security. We're using quantum random number generation, which is using basically the fundamental randomness of atomic particles to generate completely random and unpredictable digital keys that we use in encryption for physical security. So that's how I'm using quantum information. But my research was in quantum computing when I was in grad school. And that is also there are people are actually using it for real world applications now. They're using it to study materials. They're using it to solve optimization problems. And there are some companies that are actually utilizing this to solve their problems. So in one industry, I know they're using it for optimizing the placement of windmills. And the thing that you have to bring into account is that maybe this industry is a little bit outdated with their algorithms. And yes, we are able to solve a quantum algorithm, use a quantum optimization problem, and give them a better placement of their windmills. But are you able to get something just as good or better using the best of classical computing now with
Right.
parallel computing and AI and all of that? Um, I don't think there's been anything that's definitively proves that the quantum algorithms in the state that they are today, not the algorithms itself, but the fidelity and everything of our current quantum computers are not quite there yet to be used on a mass scale for solving huge problems. Because we have to overcome some of these like technical hurdles, but we're using it and it's working. So that is showing that we're moving in the right direction, and it's growing very rapidly as a field.
Very nice. And so you talked about some challenges: hardware, temperature, leakage, the amount of qubits you need to be kind of policing the system, right, to make sure there are no leakages and
Yeah.
errors. Um, are there any other challenges, and what happens when we solve them, right? I mean, it's like a three-way question. Did I forget any other
Yeah.
challenges? How far do you think we are from solving those challenges, and what happens once we solve those challenges?
So the time estimation is really hard to calculate because there could be a breakthrough that sets off a chain reaction that gets us, to market really fast. A lot of people kind of use like the 5 to 10 year range as being kind of a benchmark. But yeah, to kind of summarize the challenges, I already talked about error correction and scalability. Excuse me. Interconnectivity is another one that people are starting to talk more about. We're always going to need classical computers. Quantum computers can't do everything. So connecting quantum computers to classical computers for like hybrid computing is a really big area of research. And that's definitely a challenge for like maintaining fidelity and everything like that, and also like different latencies and building an ecosystem basically of, you have the cloud side and you have your the classical computing side and the quantum computing side, and building those architectures in a way that they can fit together and be able to solve problems efficiently. That's a really growing area of research. Cost is another thing. Figuring out how to manufacture effectively, which I don't think is as big of a concern, honestly. I think that's something we're going to figure out. Standardization. There's it's messy, really it is. There's just so many different philosophies behind how to build a quantum computer. So you have superconducting qubits, like IBM uses that. You can go on to IBM Quantum's website and even play around with one of their quantum computers, which is fun. And then there's Microsoft, for example, taking a completely different route. They're going down this route of topological quantum computing. And it's funny because we don't even know if topological quantum computing is possible, because the particles needed to do topological quantum computing, we don't know if they exist. So it's a really out there approach that I have a lot of respect for them actually for pursuing, because we need to understand that. And the reason why they're going down that path is because the chance for errors in a system like that are a lot lower. So it would be ideal in a lot of ways if we were able to figure out how to make that work. But it's one of the more out there approaches. And then there's adiabatic quantum computing, which is a different computational model. And then there's architectures that fit more into that realm. You can see like D-Wave is taking a simplified version of that called quantum annealing. So there's just so many different approaches that people are taking. D-Wave, for example, is going the way of, hey, let's just like get a lot of qubits together, and it's going to be really noisy and messy, and let's just like try to solve problems on it and see what happens, and then go from there, and then try to clean everything up and improve the noise and fidelity. And then IBM is taking a different approach where they're building like low and slow and they started with a few qubits, and then they're slowly building more and more qubits, and they're trying to maintain that like universal quantum computing throughout. Right. So there's just so many different approaches, which I think is great. We need to be attacking it from all angles, but standardizing that is something that is a challenge. And then you can also talk about like quantum cybersecurity as being a hurdle. But I mean, we're figuring that out. I think NIST is putting forth a post-quantum cryptography initiative to build cryptography that will be robust against quantum computers once we do have them be scalable and have the potential to break encryption. So those are some examples of some of the hurdles that we're facing in the field.
Nice. And I imagine when all of this gets solved, it's like zeitgeist moment of, wow, we just created something that is way more powerful than we ever imagined. What role is the government playing in quantum computing?
Oh, the government is definitely very supportive and active for quantum computing initiatives. They invest a lot of money into like national laboratories, for example, for investing in building quantum computers, building software and algorithms for quantum computers, all of the above. Also quantum communication and information, like I was talking about. There's definitely the feeling of urgency because, China's pushing for this as well. We don't want China to have a quantum computer before us. I think cryptography is probably at the top of the government's mind on all of this because if we build a quantum computer, there's something called Shor's algorithm, which a lot of people are probably familiar with, which it would be able to factor large numbers very quickly. And that becomes very important for things like RSA encryption. A lot of cryptography uses this principle because it's very hard for a computer to factor large numbers. But for a quantum computer, it'd be it's more straightforward. So that's one area that they're really concerned about. And so they've ended up investing a lot of money into quantum computing research as a whole.
Got it. How do you feel about the quantum computing community?
Oh, I love the quantum computing community. I mean, with every research field, there's some hubris, there's some competitiveness, and like, oh, we're right about this. No, because there's so many different approaches. There's definitely arguments that happen in the field, but it's all good discourse for the most part. And I have tremendous respect for many colleagues in the quantum computing field. And I find that overall it's very collaborative and open and in terms of sharing research. And I love that about the field.
Very nice. Erica, you're both a scientist, a researcher with a PhD, and then what I would call a passionate and down-to-earth entrepreneur. How did this combination come about?
I would definitely say that I lean more towards entrepreneurship than towards research. Just kind of, that's where my mind and heart lead me. But I'm also passionate about technology. And, when it comes down to it, I can hunker down and do research. And I think that was something empowering for me to like prove to myself that I could do. And I also love the collaboration of research. So I'm definitely more of like a collaborative person that also loves seeing the connections between things and building applications. I was able to have an amazing advisor, Travis Humble at Oak Ridge National Lab, who supported me in the direction I wanted to go with research and also encouraged my entrepreneurial efforts at the same time. I've definitely been very lucky in my career to have the right people supporting me along my path. But so I did a very applications-based research path where I studied portfolio optimization for like investments with the D-Wave quantum computer, and I used that to study a lot of the inner workings of the quantum annealer and understanding limitations and where improvements needed to be made and that kind of thing. So I loved that research and I loved collaborating with D-Wave as well. And then while I was in that grad school program, I actually had the opportunity to take business classes. It was pretty unique in that they let me do that. And I had the idea for my company and I took advantage of being a student and did business plan competitions, raised a little bit of capital. That was all like non-dilutive, put that into writing patents. So I have 2 patents. I kind of had to work 2 full-time jobs because it was very different than my research. And then I got a government grant which was really transformative for me. I was also towards the end of my PhD. And with that, I was able to actually start doing real product development. And then I graduated at the end of 2020, and I went full time into my company because I had some of this grant that I could use. And then I did my first seed round in 2022. So it's been a really wild ride and really exciting. And I definitely feel lucky to be here where I am. But at the same time, it was a lot of hard work that went into it too.
Right. So you have more experience actually as an entrepreneur than on the employee side, right? Or kind of.
Then on the employee side, okay, yeah, I have all of my jobs have either been research related or I've been working for myself. And it's such a weird thing to say. I actually wish that I had gotten a job when I was in high school, just so I know what it's like to like fold burritos or something. You know what I mean? Like do a service job. I've never done a service job. I feel like I missed out in a way. But yeah, that's true.
You had a marketing internship. I remember you telling me about.
Oh, okay. So yeah, my dad started a tech company when I was in high school. It was like 2011. It was just him and one other guy. He was making it work. And I was like, hey, yeah, let me help you. I don't know what I can do as a high schooler just going into college, but let me just like come in and do whatever you need. So I like helped with his website. I made like a marketing video. I actually ended up going with him to a trade show. I learned how his product worked and did like some sales at a booth and everything. It was actually really awesome experience and very exhausting, but um, that is what probably fuels my entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of ways because I was like, wow, I love this. It's like you're building something from nothing with a small, scrappy team and you're putting something cool into the world. I wanted to do that. So I actually had that mindset going into college. And that's why I chose like areas of research that I felt like were on the cutting edge and that I saw like startups popping up with. And then I was just really lucky to find a program that supported entrepreneurial efforts in grad school. A lot of times I think that's very rare to find. Um, so yeah,
Nice story.
that's
A very nice story. I love it. What's your vision for your company? Where do you want your company to be in the next 5 years?
yeah, our goal is that by 2025 we want to be the fastest growing security innovation company for physical security. And we're kind of on the bridge of physical security and cybersecurity because our mission is to bring access control into the future where you can have cloud-based monitoring, remote access, all these powerful integrations and features, but do it in a really secure way. So we're kind of bringing the best of both worlds because there's companies doing the cloud-based access control stuff, but they're neglecting security. It's definitely an area of that needs improvement. And then it's also a really complex system. And we're finding a lot of really cool ways to automate a lot of it and make it just a better user experience that's
Right.
also more secure. That's our vision, is to be the fastest growing security innovation company by 2025.
How does it look for the user? What's your, you want to make it very friendly for the user. So can you walk me through, like, I'm a user, I'm using your, Quantum security. How does it look like?
Yeah, so we have a management portal that has kind of a dashboard, you can imagine, that has we've done a lot of customer research basically to understand what kind of data they want to see up
Right.
front. Because sometimes there's just like all of this scattered stuff all around. It's really difficult to navigate. And so we can show them things like, well, this is what your occupancy looked like throughout the week. And they can kind of change a few things here and there with that. And then we have a a really good ledger system that allows them to see who's been in and when in a really easy to search for way.
Right.
Um, the data for that in other systems is very cumbersome. So it's just a more user-friendly method for that, but then also setting up users. We're using some interesting things with like AI to make that more automated and faster for them. It's a very complicated. They have to, a lot of times the facility will hire integrators to manage their access control system because it's so cumbersome.
Right.
So we're trying to make it really, really user friendly, but also very secure. That's just our mission statement, basically.
Very nice. You talked about AI. What other technology excites you? Are you excited about what's going on with AI right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you know anything about AI right now, you've got to be excited, right? It's amazing how fast it's moving. And I feel similarly about quantum computing is it's moving fast. And that's one of the most exciting parts of it. I mean, I think it's really cool because now the general user is able to play around with AI more and more with things like Dolly 2 and Chat GPT and yeah, I follow AI pretty closely. And I mean, we have a long way to go to general intelligence. I mean, I don't think we're really anywhere close to that. But the applications today that we can use for AI is just so powerful. I mean, it's going to transform, I mean, programming for sure. You can automate a lot of programming now for developers and creative stuff and detection stuff. Oh my gosh, like the capabilities they have now for detecting people even indoors using Wi-Fi with AI is just like the kind of cybersecurity stuff, like security stuff in general that with AI is also has a lot of implications. So it's very, very interesting time to be alive.
Most definitely. How do you feel about general AI? Do you get scared at it? Do you remain optimistic at it?
Um, it's an interesting question because it's hard to say. I mean, we definitely have to be careful. Like, I think, I mean, I'm not the right person to be talking about this probably, but um, I mean, I definitely think we have to be careful moving forward to make sure that we are responsible with the way that we develop general intelligence. But I do think, I mean, there's just so many examples of people organizations freaking out over stuff that I don't even think is a sign of general intelligence.
Right.
They're like, I'll shut it down. And it's like, it's okay. um, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that there's probably maybe some fear mongering a little bit, but at the same time, we do have to be cautious. It's a fine line that I don't honestly don't know where that line is,
Right.
and I don't think many people do, if anyone. So
Interesting. Enough topic for another episode.
yeah,
Um,
somebody way smarter than me should talk about
no,
that.
you're smart enough. That I'm sure. Um,
More
on that
knowledgeable, at least.
on that topic, do you ever put your brain to rest? And when you have free time, what do you do?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have to put my brain to rest a lot. Um, so something really important to me is working out. I have to work out. I do that typically in the middle of the day, actually. I'll around my lunch break time. I have it put in my schedule so that I make sure it happens. And I like lift weights and do like hot yoga, that kind of thing. I have a daughter and a partner, so my family is important to me and we spend time together. I try to make sure that we do date nights, that kind of thing. Um, and I also love playing video games. I have to really like convince myself that I need to like sit down and do something for myself. Sometimes in the evening, I sometimes will get in the rut of working after we put our daughter to bed,
Mm.
and I can't do that regularly, at least. So sometimes I'll play for like an hour in the evening, a video game, or hang out with Jamie, my partner, and yeah, I have to rest, and I prioritize sleep as well. And I think something that helps me with all of that is time management. I really have to schedule personal and professional things into my schedule and make sure the most important things are put in first and are like repeating, so that I schedule everything else around then. And if it doesn't fit, it goes to the next week. And that's just how it goes sometimes, you know? Um, but yeah, being an entrepreneur is an adventure that can consume all of your time if you let it.
Yeah,
And it's important to take care of yourself so that you can show up for your team. You know, that's how I see it, is that I don't provide enough value if I'm running myself down. So
I love it. I agree 100% and I love it. Erica, it's been so nice to have you here. I appreciate it. We'll definitely stay in touch, maybe do another episode
yeah,
sometime.
of course. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you choosing me to discuss this topic. I mean, you could have definitely chosen bigger people in the field, and I'm hope that this encourages people to go out and seek more information about quantum computing, because I definitely talked about it on a really simplified a lot of things, and I'm sure I know there are a lot of other people who come up with better analogies for explaining different concepts of quantum computing, all of the issues and promises that it offers. So um, yeah, I hope this is a launching point for people to
I
go
think
out and
I
seek
think it
more
was great. You
information.
you could do a test
Thanks.
with me and realize that now there are things that I have in my mind, like superposition, entanglement, quantum gates, and so on. And I learned all of that from you. So I appreciate it very much.
I'm glad I could help. Thanks for having me.